If you've ever found yourself scrolling late at night, you've definitely seen them, these animated horror stories. They're basically our generation's version of telling ghost stories around a campfire. Except, well, the campfire is the glow of your phone, and the deep dark woods, that's the internet.
But have you ever stopped and asked yourself why they work so well? I mean, beyond just the jump scares and creepy music, there's a very specific formula at play. It's like a recipe that's designed to tap right into the fears we have today. So let's break it down. Let's look at the anatomy of a modern scare.
Think about it. Old urban legends, they all grew out of the anxieties of their time, right? Strangers, poisoned Halloween candy, all that stuff. Well, these new digital stories are exactly the same. They are custom built for the anxieties of living in the 21st century, and that's what makes them so incredibly effective.
To really get why they have such a grip on us, we need to look a little closer. We're going to dive into 3 big themes that show up over and over again. The themes that make these stories so powerful.
Okay, first up, and this one is huge. It's all about the horror that kicks in when the digital world refuses to stay digital. You know, that chilling moment when the technology that's supposed to connect us actually turns on us, making us feel isolated and, well, hunted. You see this constantly in stories that take place on platforms like Instagram or Omegle. These are places where we kind of feel safe, you know? There's a screen between us, there's distance, but this type of horror just loves to shatter that feeling of safety. The fear isn't just about some creepy DM, it's about what happens when that DM shows up at your door.
Okay, perfect example. The story about the Instagram stalker. It all starts out harmless enough, just another follow request. But then, this message lands. This is it. This is that first terrifying crack in the digital wall. The online creep isn't just online anymore. He's somewhere in her real world, and he's watching.
And this is the gut punch reveal that this theme is so good at delivering. It turns out that all those weird, abstract photos the stalker was sending, they were taken from inside her house, from under her bed. Her ultimate safe space was violated, and she didn't even know it. The threat wasn't just becoming physical. It had secretly been physical the whole time.
And that fear, that feeling of your safe space being invaded, leads us straight into our next theme. Because sometimes the danger isn't breaking in from the outside. Sometimes it's been sitting there in plain sight all along. This is the horror of the familiar, turning, when the most boring, everyday things become a source of absolute dread.
And there is a total formula for this. You can see it every time. It starts in a place we all know, somewhere totally normal. Then, something just wrong, and there's a picture. Something uncanny. And finally, that wrongness just explodes into violence. The story of the possessed Ronald McDonald statue? It's a textbook case.
The reason these stories get under our skin is because they start in places we associate with, just normal life. A fast food restaurant, a beauty salon, these aren't supposed to be haunted houses. By setting the horror in such a familiar place, it makes it so much more jarring when that safety gets completely shattered.
And right here, this is the moment. This is the pivot point. A character makes a throwaway comment next to a lifeless plastic statue, but then the statue talks back. This is where the familiar flips into the threatening, just seconds before everything erupts into chaos.
Which brings us to our third and maybe the most primal theme of all, body horror. I'm talking about that deep, gut-level terror of losing control of your own body, of it being twisted, violated, or corrupted, and you can't do anything about it.
I mean, psychologically, this plugs directly into some very real-world anxieties we all have about how we look, about getting older, about getting sick. It all boils down to one terrifying question. What if the one thing in the universe you're supposed to have complete control over, your own body, betrays you?
Take the story of the woman who gets addicted to plastic surgery. It starts from a place that's actually kind of relatable. It's a fear that's fueled by society and the pressure to not get old. She's just trying to take control of her body and how people see it.
But her attempt to control her body ends in the ultimate loss of control. The result is just a horrific betrayal. The very thing she was trying to perfect is destroyed, turning her whole quest for beauty into a living nightmare. It's that brutal contrast that makes it so horrifying.
And you see this theme everywhere. A ghost on Omegle leaves real physical scratch marks. A routine trip to the salon becomes torture with industrial glue. A man's own strange talent for fitting into a jar becomes his prison. In every single case, the body becomes a place of horror and total helplessness.
So, okay,
We've got the digital threat that breaks into our world, the familiar things that turn on us, and the betrayal of our own bodies. Which brings us to the final, really important question. Why? Why do we actively look for these stories? What is it about these specific fears that draws us in?
When it comes right down to it, it's because they're a simulation. These stories give us a safe, controlled way to process some very real anxieties. We get to face our fear of being watched online, our fear of random violence, our fear of losing control, all from the safety of a screen. It's like being able to touch the void just for a second, without any danger falling in.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you're scrolling and you click on one of those animated horror stories, just take a second to think about the themes. Are you really just looking for a jump scare, or are you maybe looking for a reflection of something deeper? What fear are you really trying to process?